It is time to share with you all of the books that I read in July. And I am happy to report that July was a much better reading month for me. June was such a weird month. I didn't really like too many of the books that I read, but in July I was able to read 13 books, which is kind of insane. I think the most books I've read in a month, the last 6-7 months, was 9. I have no idea how I was able to read 13, but I did. So let's just go ahead and get started because I know I'm gonna be able to yap about all of this book for too long. Two of the books that I read in July was actually read digitally. I borrowed one book from Libby and the other one was an eARC that I got from NetGalley. So let's talk about those two first before talking about the rest of the physical books that I read, which is right here behind me. The first digital book that I read was The Last Chance Library by Freya Sampson. This is actually her debut novel and I did not expect to love this book so much. If you're looking for a book, about library, about librarians, this is the book for you. It has just a very heartwarming, touching story. The main character, her name is June. She is the library assistant at this very small library at her hometown. It is being threatened to shut down because there's not enough funding to basically fund all of the libraries in this county or city or area. So the community is trying to fight the library shutdown because the community kind of rely a lot on this library from people who are old, teenagers, kids. Everybody goes to the library at least once every week, and they just didn't want to see the library to be closed down because they have nowhere else to go after that. And in the midst of all of that, there's also a little sprinkle of romance between June and Alex. Alex used to live in this town, but he now lives in London. He is coming back temporarily to help take care of his dad who is going through a surgery, and usually June would go to his dad's Chinese takeaway place every week, so they kind of get to know each other again. They swap kind of like book recommendations and all of that because they have completely different like genre that they like to read, and it was just really cute. So if you're looking into that kind of vibe, I highly recommend this book. The next digital book that I read was actually an eARC. Like I said, it was for the book The Last Tiger by Julia Ryu and Brad Ryu. I'm not really sure how to say their last name, but they are brother and sister, and this book is basically a tribute to their grandparents' love story, which I think is really cute, and that is the reason why I decided to request the arc and I wanted to read it before the book was published. It is a fantasy book and the whole premise is based on their grandparents' kind of like love story, but in my opinion the book was a little bit slow to read. I feel like the world building and the politics explanation and all of this kind of like magic that different people was able to get, just the way that they write it, it's just so slow to me. I don't really read a lot of fantasy book, and I feel like all of that was written up to 50% of the book, and then that is kind of when the adventure starts. And honestly, I got a little too bored to read the first half. I did finish the book. It was actually a pretty decent book, but I read some reviews and they were saying that this book should be like a duology or something, because I think the adventure part is, to me, a little too short and too abrupt, I guess, like it's too fast. I would definitely agree with people reviewing saying that this book could have been a duology, so they can basically do more world building and describing the politic and the magic kind of like in the first book or something, and then do like the adventure in the second book or something like that. All in all, it was still a pretty great book. I just think it was just too slow for me. Those are the two digital books, so I'm gonna talk about all of those physical books behind me that I read in July. I was really trying to do a lot more summer romance book because it is summer and I feel like summer romance is just the perfect thing to read in the summer. So I feel like the first 3 books that I'm gonna show you has summer in the title. Anyways, the first book is Same Time Next Summer by Annabelle Monaghan. I finally read one of her books. I've been itching to read her book, but I just haven't had the chance and time to read it. But I finally read this one. This is about Sam, who is engaged to Jack, a doctor, and they basically have like this perfect life, perfect routine in the city. And I think in the summer her family invited them back to like their beach house to kind of spend the summer together, kind of getting to know Jack. Jack can also get to know like her family, her parents, her grandparents, and I think is it her sister? I forgot, but I know she has a sibling. But anyways, all of that is cool and all, but her Wyatt was actually there. So Wyatt was Sam's first love. I think they were kind of like neighbors at the beach, so they spent the summer together. It is kind of giving the Summer I Turned Pretty vibe, but we also get the perspective of Sam and Wyatt as adults when they kind of reminisce and look back to like their teenage years when they were dating and stuff like that. Basically, something changed after Sam saw Wyatt again after all of these years. It was just kind of like current love versus first love type of thing. And because this is a second chance romance, I know people always try to make sure that the first reason why they broke up was justified, and here it was, I think in my opinion, definitely justified, especially from Wyatt's perspective. I would recommend this book. I would read more of Annabelle Monaghan's book because I think I have 1 or 2 more that should be read in August, which is right now. The next one that I have is called It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. This is part of the Bellinger Sister book series. This is the first one about Piper, who basically lives in Hollywood. She is kind of like a socialite. Her mom actually married her stepdad, and her stepdad is definitely the rich one. He basically adopted Piper and her sister Hannah into his family, so they were kind of like free to do whatever it is with their life. It was kind of snobby. She caused like this crazy thing that make her stepdad super mad, and the way that he punished her is for her to go back to her actual dad's hometown, which is Westport, Washington. Piper needs to prove to her stepdad that she is just not a spoiled brat and she can do something with her life. And that is how the story goes. She had to move to Westport for, I think the deal was 3 months, and then when she's there, she came across Brendan, who is a sea captain, and things kind of go from there. It has a small town romance kind of vibe, but instead of like cowboys, they are actually fishermen. I love the way that Piper definitely changed from this whole experience, and you definitely have to read the book to know what they are. And I honestly cannot wait for the second book. I do have it already, and it's gonna be about Hannah, who is Piper's little sister, who went with her when she was banished to Westport. Hannah got close with one of Brendan's friends up in Westport, and I want to know what happens to them too. The next book is the second book in the Summer I Turned Pretty series. It's called It's Not Summer Without You by Jenny Han. I was actually trying to read the third book when I went away in the last weekend of July, but I did not read it, so I haven't catch up on the TV show. Third and final season has premiered. They are basically coming out with the episodes, I think 1 or 2 every week, and the last episode is gonna come out sometime in September, so I have time to finish the third book and then I can catch up on the TV show. But this is the second book. I'm not really sure if I should summarize the book for you, because if you haven't read the first one, it's definitely gonna spoil it for you, so I'm not gonna do that. But I will tell you what I think about the book. I feel like the first book is much better than this one, and I think it's because we first learned about Belly and about Conrad and Jeremiah and how they got tangled up every time they go to Cousins Beach in the summer. And honestly, this story is just kind of a story leading into the third and final book, so I cannot wait to read the third book and kind of make sense of this second book, if that makes sense to you. The next book that I have is Cash by Jessica Peterson. This is a small town cowboy romance, probably the first one that I've read. I can't remember if I read this or Love is a War Song first. I'm pretty sure I read this first. But this one is about Molly, who is a city girl, rich girl, and when her dad unexpectedly passed away, she basically had to go to the ranch that he owns, kind of in the middle of nowhere, to make sure like what the inheritance and the will is all about. She expected money, obviously, because she wants the money to be invested back into her company. But when she gets there, she's met with the ranch foreman, Cash Rivers, who's super grumpy and already assumed that she's gonna sell the ranch. Obviously, because he worked so hard, he worked closely with Molly's dad to make this ranch what it is now. He doesn't want the ranch to be sold to just a random stranger because his brothers also work at the ranch and other people in the community works at the ranch, and they definitely put a lot of time and effort to make the ranch the way it is, and they just don't want Molly to sell it off. I think one stipulation that Molly's dad has before she can cash out on her inheritance is for her to live in the ranch for a whole year. Obviously, she doesn't want to do it at first, but she can't really argue with her dad because her dad's not there anymore, so she had to do it. And of course, from there, she gets to know Cash, her brothers, everybody who actually works at the ranch, and she kind of is having a change of heart. I kind of fell in love with the Rivers brothers, and I cannot wait to read more of their stories. I think there's 5 of them, so we have 5 books about small town cowboy romances, and I can't wait. The next book that I have is The X-Files by Jessica Joyce. I know that this is kind of like summary. It's set at a wedding, I think in Napa Valley or like somewhere near San Francisco, and this is about 2 exes who haven't seen each other in such a long time, Georgia and Eli. Both of them are actually friends with another guy named Adam who is getting married. 3 of them were like BFFs in high school. They came together and basically tried to be civil for the wedding. Adam was telling them that this wedding is cursed. There's so many things wrong that are happening, that have happened when they are planning their wedding, and the venue that they originally chose to be married at burned to the ground, which is, oh my gosh, insane. I think like it was about a week before the actual wedding date, so they were freaking out. But then Adam can't really go out and help kind of pre-plan everything, so he asked Georgia and Eli to kind of take care of it for him when Adam had to take care of things at home. Anyways, they kind of get to plan this wedding together for their best friend, and of course, because they are, you know, close to each other, old feelings came back and all of that, and they had to kind of face the reason why they broke up the first time. For some reason, when I was reading this book, I was kind of reading it as I was like watching a rom-com movie, so it was actually really cute. And oh my gosh, Eli has changed so much since the last time like Georgia and him were together. I wanted to read her other book, I think You Would a Few, but I haven't been able to find a copy just yet, so hopefully I'll read it soon. If you have read that book, let me know in the comment below if I should hunt that down, because I know I've added it to my wishlist on Book Outlet, but it's been out of stock for a long time. Alright, next book is a cozy mystery, something that I've never really read before, but this is Finley Donovan is Killing It by Elle Cosimano. Oh my god, this book was such a great read for me. I did not expect it. This book was so addicting. I keep needing to flip the pages like as soon as I'm done reading one page, because I was just curious on what is happening or what's gonna happen next. If you read the summary, it is just kind of like interesting, super interesting. But basically, Vinley is a writer. She's a mom of 2, she's divorced, and one time during lunch she was meeting up with, I think, her literary agent, and they were talking about her next book. She is a mystery writer, and I guess one lady overheard her, and just the way they talk about her books or her upcoming books, it makes it seems like Finley is a contract killer. And if you read that part, you kind of understand, because later on Finley was sitting down at her house after this one woman came up to her and let her know that, hey, if you're a contract killer, I need your help. She kind of like played back like their conversation, and she was like, oh my gosh, I see why this woman think that I can help her husband, basically. But it was just very interesting, super twisty. It keeps me at the edge of my seat all the time. There are 4 books in the series, or 5 I think, and the 6th books is about to come out next year. I have 4 of them, and I'm really hoping that the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th book has the same, I don't know, like what that feeling is, where I just need to know what's next. If you have read this book series, let me know in the comment below. But this first book just really blew my mind, and I cannot wait to read the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th book because I already have them. Next book is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I finally read one of her full books. I actually read her novella that was released on Amazon a few months ago, and I have this book series. There's 3 of them: Part of Your World, Yours Truly, and Just for the Summer, I think, or it's flipped, I don't know. But those 3 books are about like doctors at this healthcare center. This is about Alexis, who just broke up with her boyfriend, and her parents is trying to force her to get back together with the boyfriend because the boyfriend was a very famous surgeon in the hospital that they work at. Her family is a big like donor to this hospital. Basically, she was almost like arranged to be married to this guy, but she just decided to break up with him for some reason, and I just don't want to tell you what it is because you want to read the book for that. But anyways, she ended up seeing or meeting this guy, Daniel, who is way younger than her. I think they were 10 years apart. I usually don't read reverse age gap romance just because in my real life, I just can't really see myself with someone who is 10 years younger. But for some reason, in this book, it just works. Like Daniel was like, I think 25 or 23, but he's just so mature, way more mature than Alexis's ex-boyfriend in this book. So I was okay with that. And Daniel was just very nurturing, very caring about Alexis. He knows that Alexis is a busy ER doctor, and anytime they see each other, he literally takes care of her. And it was just really sweet, and I feel like that's the reason why it works for me, and I don't feel weird reading about like a 35-year-old woman with a 25-year-old man, I guess. I know it's normal, and I feel like nowadays there's more and more reverse age gap like plot in movies, stories, even Korean drama. Honestly, I cannot wait to read the 2nd and 3rd book. And if you haven't read any of Abby Jimenez's book, I would highly recommend starting with this book series because I know she has 1 or 2 more book series that are older than this one, and I've heard that people don't really like those, but they love these ones, so I would highly recommend reading this first. The next one that I have is a very small book, and this is called The Second Chance Convenience Store by Kim Ho-yeon, I think. This is originally was written in Korean, and it's been translated by Janet Hong. Harper Perennial actually sent this to me a few months ago, and I finally got a chance to read this book. It is pretty small, I think less than 200 something pages, and it's about Dokgo, who was homeless, and I think Mrs. Yom found him at a train station. I think it's at Seoul Station. Originally, her wallet was missing, and Dokgo basically called her up and say, hey, I have your wallet, go back to Seoul Station if you want to retrieve it and stuff like that, not knowing that he's actually a homeless person, and he was basically trying to fight off other thieves in the station to be able to return the wallet back to Mrs. Yom. Mrs. Yom actually owned this convenience store, and she offered him a job because nobody wants to cover the night shift or like the graveyard shift, and because he has nothing else to do, he's homeless, he decided to say yes. Basically, the whole book was talking about the relationship of Dokgo with the other convenience store's employees, as well as just people in the neighborhood. I was reading this as if I'm like watching a Korean drama episode. We learn basically at the end of the book why Doggo was homeless, why he couldn't remember anything about his past life, and it was just pretty touching. I was actually reading this book and vlogging it, and I will leave that video in a link below and up here somewhere. I was saying in that vlog that they should definitely make this into a Korean drama because I think people will love it. It's just very touching and very heartwarming. He just basically touched a lot of people's like lives without really knowing it or realizing it, and it was just a very heartwarming story. I don't know what else to tell you, but if you get a chance to either borrow this book or buy this book, I would highly recommend this. The next one that I have is Love is a War Song by Danica Nava. This book is actually a new book that was released, I think, sometime in early July. I actually read this as an eARC already from Berkeley, which is amazing. I was approved, and because I love that book so much, I decided to actually pre-order the book and get the physical copy. This is about Avery, who is a famous singer. She is of Native American, but she never really learned about her background, her culture, because her mom basically left the, I want to say, reservation, I think, when her mom was pregnant with Avery, and because of a mishap she became cancelled in social media, and her mom decided that it's time for her to go back to Oklahoma and learn a thing or two about her Native American heritage. So she did just that. Obviously she doesn't want to. She said, I can face the media, you know, let me just do my own thing and all of that. But her mom insisted that she had to go back to maybe just be in hiding, maybe learn a thing or two, like I said, about her Native American culture and stuff. When she arrived, she met with the ranch foreman. His name is Lucas Iron Eyes. He's been living and working at Avery's grandma's ranch ever since he was 16 years old. So this is basically his home. First they were not really liking each other. I think Lucas thinks that Avery is snobby. Obviously she's never been back. She never heard of stories or anything about, you know, like her grandma, and I guess Lucas kind of finally offered to teach her a thing or two about her Native American background. And from then on they kind of spent a lot of time together learning about the ranch, about, you know, the Native American community there and stuff like that. And I'll just leave it at that. I'll tell you that this is such a cute small town cowboy romance. I just love this book so much. I actually also ordered her other book, The Truth According to Amber. I have it like back here. That one is about an accountant and a coworker, and I love office romance, workplace romance, and I cannot wait to read that one. If you love small town cowboy romance, definitely pick this up, borrow it, buy it. I think you'll have a good time. Next book is Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. This book is about June and Athena, who basically went to the same school together, graduated at the same time. They were both trying to be authors. However, Athena's became very successful, very famous, while June just wrote and published a kind of mediocre book. Nobody really read it. It's not really best-selling. One night they were hanging out together at Athena's apartment, and something freaky happened where Athena actually died from something freaky. You have to read it. I know people have talked about how Athena died, but I think you should read it. Before she died, Athena was showing June about her latest manuscript that nobody had ever heard of before. She just finished writing it. So when that accident happened, June decided to bring home that manuscript with her and plan to publish it as her own book, which she did. There is a lot of accusations after the book was published and published successfully. People are asking and wondering if that is actually really June's work, because it sounds like Athena. And it was just a very interesting book to read. Like I said, all of the things that June has done in this book, I probably would never ever do it. I don't know how she kind of got away with it a little bit. There's just a lot of drama. There's this one character that was very interesting, and I predicted that this character would do something kind of like either in the middle of the book or toward the end of the book. If you haven't read Yellowface, I would highly recommend this book just for like the thrill of it, because I think it's kind of thrilling, but it's also kind of like weird and a little unhinged in my opinion. The writing is super addicting though, like even though I always like question why June did the things she did in this book, I still cannot wait to keep flipping the pages and wanting to know what happens next. Last but not least, I was sent The Bright Years by Sarah Damoff, I think by Simon & Schuster. I was in their Simon Books Buddy program, so I got this sent to me. This is a debut novel by Sarah Damoff. This book is a little bit about grief, I want to say. It has 3 parts. The first one was told by the main character's mom, and then the main character, and then the dad of the main character. Maybe I should read the synopsis of the book to you so you kind of understand what this book was about. But basically, Ryan and Lillian Bright are the parents. They were in love, they just got married, and Lillian gave birth to Georgette, which is the main character. The dad, Ryan, basically became an alcoholic, and he didn't really tell Lillian, the mom, about it, and Georgette basically has to witness her parents' marriage kind of like falling apart. And I guess years later, Lillian's son, the one she never told anybody about, came to try and find Lillian, and I guess Georgette has to kind of find out more about her mom and her mom's life before she got married to her dad Ryan and stuff like that. And it was just a very like slice of life type of book. I didn't really expect some of the things that happened. I would still highly recommend this book. Just read it. I feel like I don't know, I can't really explain anymore without really spoiling too much about this book. Anyways, those are all of the books that I read in July. Like I said, I had a pretty great reading month in July, and I'm hoping that August is gonna be the same.